Hey everybody, welcome to the Wisdom Distillery. I'm your host, Shaman John. And in this episode, we're talking to Randall Scott White. He's an entrepreneur and musician. He's the founding partner of Nature Commode and runs a company called Venture VR, as well as having his hands in a whole lot of other projects. Very interesting guy, and has had some pretty intense experiences over the past couple of years that we'll go into. Thanks for listening, and enjoy my interview with Randall Scott White. Hey, welcome to another podcast. We're here with Randall White. Randall White is a character that I met at a friend of ours' monthly party, potluck that they have. And he had just recently moved down here from Portland, Oregon for a whole host of reasons. One specifically we'll get into later. But I found him a super fascinating character with a lot of projects that are really interesting and close, near and dear to our hearts here at North Austin Sanctuary. And wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about the different projects he's engaged in. Also a musician, so I'm sure we'll get into that as well. So Randall White, tell me about what your work. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then what are these projects you're working on that are going to save the world?
Well, thank you, John. I'm glad to land here in Austin and meet such an awesome character myself. And I have landed here to be a rabble-rouser in Austin, much like I was a rabble-rouser in Portland. I do have a reputation up there, and what I started up there is still going with partners helping manage those projects. So my background is I am the pioneer, or a pioneer, of the sharing economy when that emerged in about 2007, 2008.
And for those who are not totally familiar with the sharing economy, name some names who have probably co-opted what you were working on initially, but have become maybe more mainstream that people know.
Sure. You have neighborhood networks right now, the likes of Nextdoor and Rooster that are emerging. And I like to take credit for having pioneered that technology. The first to have a neighbor-to-neighbor peer-to-peer network for trading things. You grow tomatoes, I have a ladder, let's help each other out.
Nice.
Kind of thing. And that's one of my projects, and that kind of evolved into a community that I started working with as I was building hyperlocal community at the neighborhood level, and met some amazing people who then sucked me into the permaculture world, and I started learning all about earth systems and started having a systemic viewpoint of what it's going to take to actually sustain our population as we keep breeding on this planet. And I don't subscribe to the overpopulation theories of, well, we have to deal with that and the manner of some dystopian, horrible future.
Right.
We just
we
need to be smarter as a species.
Totally.
And that's it. That's my whole game.
Yeah. Nice.
And so I've come down here to expand on my most recent project called Nature Commode. We are America's first eco porta-potty company, full cycle sanitation.
Love it.
And people are no longer grossed out about it, which tells me America's growing up. I'm proud of our country.
Nice. So go into detail about, where did the idea hit you to deal with waste as a useful commodity?
My brother Chris was the crew chief for General Tommy Franks. He was the general who invaded Iraq in 2003. Shortly before my brother Chris committed suicide in 2005, I asked him, what are you doing over there on all these missions in Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, every stan you could think of? And he looked at me, he said, I just know that 1 week, the guys that we were shooting at the week before are the guys that we're building a runway with the next week. I don't ask questions anymore.
Yeah.
But I know that there was something troubling him deep inside, and in 2005, he walked out onto his porch and he shot himself. And it really sent me into a soul search of, why are we fighting?
Mm-hmm.
What is this all about? Why do we have militaries? And I'm not a peacenik as much as, I mean, I've grown up in a military family. I'm the only one who hasn't served. My dad was Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. My brother served, both brothers served. And so this is my way to peacefully serve our country and focus on how can we be smarter instead of fighting over resources. Look at all the waste that is viewed as waste, when in fact it is not waste. Nature has no waste.
Right.
And that was the permaculture mentality that I adopted. And so saw an opportunity to apply after reading the Humanure Handbook, and I give him credit for opening my eyes to,
it's a
whoa,
great book.
we could really be doing this guy's plan.
Yeah.
And I did a TED Talk in 2011 on the subject of what would happen if America's debt ceiling could no longer happen, the subject of collapse. And look at where we are today in 2017. They're still kicking our debt can down the road. We're out of road now.
Right.
We cannot just keep creating money out of thin air. This is a finite planet. And so let's look around at how to be smarter. And the TED Talk was about, if we did have a collapse scenario, what could we do? Well, in a pinch, we could take this wasted resource that we're fighting for oil right now. Oil is a petroleum fuel input to make fake nitrogen fertilizer. Well, why don't we make real fertilizer the way Ma Nature intended? Look at all the poop that we have in this country. Well, let's just be smart about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how can we convert that into a fuel? Portapotties.
Right.
Right now, portapotties use a poison chemical for the most part. All that blue liquid is formaldehyde based. And those companies have to pay a fee at the wastewater facility to get rid of that.
Right.
So their liability is actually an asset. And we're the first company that is taking the lead on this. And we have our customers that are making the switch and choosing all natural sanitation. We're succeeding in Oregon and Washington. And so Austin is the sister city of weirdness.
Yeah.
Here I sit.
Nice. And there's so many transformational festivals going on now around the country, probably globally. I'm not totally aware, but I'm sure they're happening internationally. And they seem to me like a market that is ripe for conversion. If they haven't jumped on board, they in my opinion, to be in integrity with their marketing, have to.
Yeah, the American culture is behind the curve. There's a company that's been doing it for quite a while in England. They're called Natural Event.
Okay.
And I hat tip them for pioneering it, but what they don't have to deal with is the regulations that the U.S. has, and so they can't really break into the market here. What they do, my understanding is, and they service huge festivals, Glastonbury.
Oh, wow. So, yeah.
200,000 people going to the bathroom.
Right.
Well, they end up leaving this big pile of poo at that farm, and it breaks down and helps the soil that year. We can't just leave a big pile of crap at,
Coachella.
Lollapalooza. It's not going to work.
People love that.
Right. And so what we are doing is tackling that big knot that has to be untied little by little. And the reality is small scale versions of that mentality make sense at the street festival level in America. And that's where Nature Commode has made our mark. And so we would love to serve Coachella and Lollapalooza and all these massive festivals. And trying to break in that market, I think, frankly, if there's music managers that want to dip a toe in the water, they should have us service the green room for the artists.
Perfect.
Because porta potties, for the most part, people hate them.
Right.
They stink. People are treated like cattle. Ladies won't even sit on the seat. They all sit on and hover. There's no lighting in them for the most part.
Yeah.
They're not serviced at a level. I lived in Germany as an Air Force brat, and they used to have this little German lady that would go and make sure the bathrooms were clean.
Yeah.
Well, we're not cattle.
Right.
And we need to step up. And event managers, most of the time, porta potties are just this checklist item for them.
Right.
Well, now they're starting to realize that we can be part of the festival. You know how many people take selfies in nature commodes, put it online,
That's
and
awesome.
there's no odor. We use sawdust. It's a natural absorbing material.
Yeah.
It's a very appreciated service by our customers and by the people who are attending the events.
That's brilliant.
It's fun, and I can't take all the credit myself. I do have a business partner named Nicole Cousino. She started Nature Commode.
Nice.
I did the talk and was Mr. Idea guy.
Yeah.
She actually executed on it. So we went to coffee, and I said, Nicole, we can either compete because this is my future of what I intend to do, or we can partner up.
Nice.
We're partners, and I can't do it without her.
That's great.
She's amazing.
So what's the next hurdle, I guess, that you guys have to face to get this thing more into the mainstream?
Well, we're pursuing several paths, roads that we can take in order to make this happen. If you look at what we've invented, the pop-up porta. So the existing fleets of porta potty companies are these big, durable but heavy plastic porta potties. Ours is collapsible. It's not as weak as a tent. It's made of metal and fabric, but it's the perfect hybrid, but that still gives you the feeling of security and space as a porta potty, but you can fit 40 on a truck instead of 4.
Wow, okay.
And so that allows us to serve markets for emergency management. We're talking to the military right now. I mean, the military, you've seen that movie Jarhead, where they actually pour JP8 on a pile of poop and burn it?
Burn it.
That is not environmentally friendly, and that is actually a sanctioned way to get rid of waste. Well, we need to be smarter as a military. So for deployments where we actually show up, and much like the attitude of where you go to a campsite, leave it better than when you found it.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of having an impact that's negative wherever we deploy to, then they can actually have a positive result where those troops have contributed to generating phosphorus and nitrogen and potassium, which are the 3 big elements that make up fertilizer. We have 2 systems. One is for the guys. It's easier for us to just capture the pee. So I thought, okay, well, how can we make that easier? So we made out of our urinals just for men, or depending on whatever gender is acceptable these days, whoever has a penis.
Or some penis-like appendage that allows them to stand up and urinate.
Right, and my partner is working on female urinals, by the way. But I'm a guy, and it's easier for me to concentrate on how guys can. I've been writing my name in the snow since I could.
Of course.
And so gamifying that process, making where you go to the bathroom and you actually have a video game monitor in front of you, and you can either play against other guys or just play whatever game is on the screen. The point is to make it fun to go to the bathroom, and then up pops an educational message. Thank you for contributing. You're helping the planet. And he's like, well, all I did was pee. That was a fun game. Well, what we're doing is then capturing that urine, going back, pasteurizing it, turning it into a fast-acting liquid fertilizer.
Brilliant.
If you look at the problem up in the Pacific Northwest right now, studies show that the salmon and other fish are all full of pharmaceuticals. You're eating salmon, but you're eating somebody's Lipitor, your street drugs, everything that is going to the wastewater facilities. Up to 50% of what those wastewater facilities are supposed to treat is being missed. And when I went to school, 50% was a failing grade.
Right.
And it doesn't matter, my opinion. The science says the wastewater facilities are failing in their job to protect our water systems.
Yeah, they're antiquated.
It's antiquated technology. They had it right in the 1850s with outhouses.
Right.
So the future looks a lot like the past.
Yeah.
And what we are doing is bringing modern technology into the mix in order to actually go back to what Earth sanctions as the right way to deal with what is not a waste, but a valuable nutrient system that our body puts out. Now, if you pee on a plant, or a dog pees on a plant, it's going to burn it and go away. You have to mix it with water, 6 to 10 parts water, and we take it through a process so that all of the stuff that people are worried about getting into groundwater, it comes out as a pure form that can be returned to the earth. You can extract electricity from pee. If you use microbial fuel cells, you can run your laptop off of your pee, man.
Right.
like why are we wasting this golden opportunity,
Yeah.
literally?
Yeah.
And
What are some of the successes you've had so far? I remember at the party you were telling me about, this gamification of the urinals. Where do you have those placed, and what are some of these success markers you've had so far with this?
I'm currently in proposals right now. I'm housed at Capital Factory here in Austin, which is the tech incubator. I'm in talks with them to install it in their building. So to bring it to the field level, I have not landed a street festival here in Austin yet. The first one, we would like to deploy our game system, because that it's still proving ground. We have the technology ready to go. We just need to get that first.
So you can
contract.
even do the gamification version as a pop-up unit.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was only for like an established business.
No,
or
I went down to 6th Street and was checking out on a Friday, and two guys were just duking it out on the street. And why
Of course
not?
they were.
We have a game. It's when you go pee, it collects. It tells you how much has been collected. Your average guy will go 8 ounces per time. And there's 2 horses on the screen, like an Atari game, looks like Pitfall, racing. So you literally have a pissing contest instead of going to violence. So it's a peace solution. And I see that we really need to come together as a species to protect ourselves. And what's going on in America right now, if you think that we have problems culturally now, just wait till we have the debt collapse. Just wait till there's less money and less resources available. So we better get our act together now.
Well, it's almost like we have to engage our higher selves to protect our lower selves because it's like it's really the battle is within each and every one of us to like what it's the old parable of the wolf, like which wolf should I feed, or which one will win. It's like, well, the one you feed the most, like the dark or the light, So I think that's what you're proposing is really just this way of feeding the higher more aware versions of ourselves. And also there's a really great book called, let's see if I can remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it, but essentially what it was alluding to was choice architecture, and that the choice architecture is, engaged in every retail decision that's ever played out. Whole supermarkets are laid out with this choice architecture, this sort of science around choice architecture. And so to design systems, and waste management systems are one of those systems where people are incentivized, not punished, but incentivized to do the right thing. And I know even with studies where they've, several in India, because India is terrible for waste management, but I think they were like trash cans that said thank you, I think, in some European countries, something to that effect. They did this thing in an Indian city where there was this building where all the dudes would just stop on their scooters and just piss all over the side of this building, and they sort of blocked it off. They put a urinal there, and then they painted these beautiful patterns and stuff on it. And so they did this thing where they instead of just trying to block it off or punish people or shoo people away, it's like, well, this is happening. How do we work with the energy of what's happening? What they need to do is piss. This seems to be a place they are going to piss regardless of what we do. So why don't we just accommodate that in a way that allows them to do what they need to do and beautifies the area and manages the area instead of making it just this disgusting slum toilet.
In Paris, they did the same thing. They have outdoor urinals for the homeless, and they have it's feeding plants.
Brilliant.
And so in that kind of thinking, in Indiana, I believe, there's a town that replaced all of the red lights with circular roundabouts, and their accident rates have gone down by 80% because you didn't have a big hand saying, "You will stop."
Yeah, even though there's no one in any corner within viewing distance.
Correct. You just must be here at the red light.
You just sit here for the next 5 minutes.
That's the rule. And when they put in, well, what wants to happen here, and they let it happen naturally, magically it happens.
Move with it.
We're getting more of that kind of thinking, and the results are clear.
Yeah. So that's one project. You've got several more. We talked a little bit about the VR thing that you're a VR consultant. So tell me more about that.
So I am a virtual, augmented, and mixed reality consultant as well. I have a company called Venture VR, and I'm also incubating that here at Capital Factory. And I started out because I come from the media world, and when I was selling radio, then I got into video production. And with video production, the next iteration of that came along, 360 video, where it made sense to me, if you're going to do marketing, what's the next level thing is video that's not just fixed in a 2D frame. People want to be able to look all around. So when I started producing 360 video for clients, there was for instance, a ENRG kayaking in Oregon wanted to show people what it's like to go on their kayak trips. So when you're wearing a headset and you can look all around and see the waterfalls and the cool area, it made sense for him. But then I saw the writing on the wall with VR as, oh, well, it's not just 360 video, virtual reality's really kicking in. And so always being an adopter of technologies earlier, as fast as I can, now I am having fun being somebody who just understands how it's going to be applied, not for gaming, but I was the first to pioneer what's called full sensory immersion. I was visiting assisted care facilities, and you take somebody who's at the end of their life or near that, and they're bedridden or they're stuck in a wheelchair, and they just see those same four walls. That's a prison. That's a prison in their mind.
Totally.
And when you can blow their minds by saying, hey, John, where did you go in your life that you really loved traveling to? Or where did you never get to go to that you'd like to go to? And you can bring them back to Yosemite, or you could bring them to the Eiffel Tower, and they are traveling right there in that room. Not only that, you bring them to a beach, but there's sand that their feet is really in, and there's a heat lamp, and there's smelling salts that smell like the ocean air, and they can hear the seagulls. It's not just visual and hearing. I brought in all the senses, and there's some assisted care facilities that will let them drink a Mai Tai, so they even get the taste in there.
A little tropical magic.
This year, April 1st, Google put out an April Fool's video saying, well, what about the extra senses? And they showed this kind of nerdy guy, and he shows up, well, that's my business. And I wrote to the guy, John Wiley, and I said, hey, you're making fun of it, but I'm cashing checks doing your joke. And now what do you see happening? You see haptic feedback gloves that allow you to hold a golf club, and it feels like you're holding a virtual golf club, or like a real one. Or you feel heat if you touch something hot, or if you touch virtual snow, you feel cold. All of that is no joke. We haven't sex suits are coming out. Everything is heading to where you will completely be immersed in other worlds. Not only that, that's virtual reality. Then mixed reality is where, remember that movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have cartoons running around? That's real now. You're going to have contact lenses and glasses where it's all built in, and you have heads-up displays while you're biking that tell you your heart rate, what's your distance left to meet your goal. All of the ways that we can use technology for good is what I am about. And so I apply it to the healthcare market. Construction, you can completely train somebody without on a forklift without having to use a real forklift. They can just be in a room.
Pilots have been doing this for decades.
And what used to be multi-million-dollar sims are now $4.99 app. It's awesome. It's awesome.
And how do you... some critics of that obviously point out the potential dangers, and I think, you see these things unfolding now, so they're not potential, but real dangers of people just sort of getting lost in the virtual world at the neglect of their actual world, and, the sort of movement in that direction. Like, I think, how do we balance wisdom with cleverness? Because every tool has got, you can smother someone with a pillow, but they sure are nice to rest your head on, right? We have the wisdom, for the most part, to use pillows to rest our head on and not choke each other out. So how do we develop wise humans who use tools in a discerning manner?
You could stab somebody in the eye with a pen, or you could write a lovely poem. same thing with virtual reality or any technology that we develop. The programming that parents encourage, the programming that someone has for themselves, that wolf inside.
Yeah.
It's the same thing if you have somebody who plays Grand Theft Auto day in and day out. They may actually want to run up, kick somebody out of their car and drive off in that thing.
Right.
Or they could take it and use a virtual reality meditation app and go zen out. So
Right.
Much like anything, it's what that person chooses to do with this powerful new tool. And that's all virtual reality is
Totally.
the latest screen.
Yeah.
Only they used to tell you, sit back from the TV or it's going to hurt your eyes. Now they're like, put the TV right 2 inches in front of your eyes.
Exactly. Well, I love the memes that are like, oh, this world, what does it come to? And it shows a picture of everybody on the train or on the bus just staring at their phones or whatever, and then they go to a picture in the 1940s and 1950s, and everybody's just staring at the newspaper on the bus or the train or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, humans are humans are humans are humans. I think my concern in some of those things is that. Untesting, certainly like cell technology and all that kind of stuff, more and more information is coming out about the damaging nature of having these high frequencies next to your face all the time. And I know that actual VR versus like sticking a phone in the little receptacle on your face are two different types of technologies entirely. So, but clearly they're crossing over. So I would like to see more, I guess, judiciousness in making sure these technologies and all the frequencies that we don't see but are measurable are handled in a way that keeps people safe, especially kids who are going to get into this stuff. And the other thing is, you said you're not here for gaming, but that's a hugely powerful industry, and the propaganda behind that industry, for a number of reasons, not just to sell games, but to really train minds for a whole host of endeavors, I think is not an illegitimate concern. So how do we counteract that? I mean, I think creating these tools and really presenting other options and other ways to use this technology is one way, but the propaganda machine has always got its own agenda, and it seems to veer towards in a certain direction.
When you have game after game after game that encourages violence, and then you have the President of the United States encouraging what seems, with words not of compassion, or at least it seems scripted. When you have that, I think it's going to come down to parenting. Children, you're right. If you have a phone in front of their brain, there's radiation, all these things to consider. Their eyes are still developing.
Totally.
And that's why it's recommended that kids don't do this till the age of 13, but there's really no science yet behind it that shows how does this impact their vision, how does this impact their frequencies, their brain waves, do they get a tumor in a certain lobe of their brain if they do this enough. That's all to be determined yet, but I would just say use precautions in the programming of what people are having access to. There's always going to be games. I like to do shoot 'em ups,
Of
but
course.
not against other humans, but they have games for the Vive, like the Haunted Mine. If you're blasting targets, that's different to me. And that gaming is acceptable. I won't allow violence towards other people in anything that my child does. But that's to each their own, and every parent is going to do that. I do think that we are headed towards a maturity, though, in this country. We're right now, we're the angry teenager of a country fighting mom and dad. And really that's fighting ourselves.
Totally.
And so there's probably a lot of shakeups that we still haven't seen to come yet. But as long as we always have that light that people can turn to when they're ready, that's the team I want to play on.
Totally. And I think it's definitely growing. It's kind of an underground movement, and I think in certain places it's more robust than others, but in general I have hope that these things will be, that they will prevail in the long run. And the whole history of the human cycle is cycles. It is this kind of wave-like form where people kind of rise up and are in that sort of golden age, which is talked about in many cultures, and then descend back into narcissism and self-indulgence and all that kind of stuff. And it usually takes some shakeups for people to kind of to spin back around.
Everyone has that scene in Empire Strikes Back where Luke's fighting himself after he blasts Vader and it's his face.
Yeah. Cuts his own head off.
Cuts his own head off. That's all of us. We have to have that fight eventually.
Yeah.
And it comes to somebody when it comes.
Yeah.
And it's how do you handle it, and can you rise above to not be self-destructive or destructive to others or the planet.
Yeah.
And I've had my battles.
Yeah, totally.
I've had my battles.
So interesting side note. So booking here at North Austin Sanctuary, I put out the call for artists several months ago, and started just getting a bevy of artists sending in their material and things like that. And this was before you actually moved here, but you actually sent in your content and your website and your links and stuff like that. I think you actually mentioned you did several other things and that you were moving here. You hadn't moved here yet. And and I remember looking you up and thinking, oh yeah, this guy's good. I also thought, oh well, he's not here yet, so what am I going to do? But yeah, so you're a musician too.
Yes.
As well, and so let's talk a little bit about that. And what are your, I guess, where you're coming from, what you hope to do with that, and where your influences.
I thought I was going to be a world famous rock star. I got very.
Don't we all?
I got very close. We had my band Railer had played 11 shows in Portland when we won the local rock stations. There's over 70 bands that competed, and we won. They flew up Guns N' Roses and The Cure's manager, and we got flown down to L.A. and we went to SIR Studios in front of Geffen, Island, Interscope, Warner Brothers, Sony, BMG, Columbia. They were all there.
Wow.
And it's very intimidating when you have a bunch of executives just sitting on couches in front of you with their arms crossed.
Yeah.
It's not
Impress me.
Impress me. How are you going to play in the German market? All those kinds of thoughts. Not, wow, great lyrics. And this is right after nu metal was waning the resurgence of 80s influenced synth pop, like the Killers had not popped. We were supposed to be the Killers, right? And that's what John Reese, the former manager of Guns N' Roses, saw in us. Well, he told me, Randall, you have to do something crazy. We just signed this band called The Used, and the bassist took off his shoe and he threw it at the executives. I was like, okay, John, I'm your man.
I'm going to throw a shoe.
And so 2 lessons learned that day. One is don't flip off the people who you're there to ask for money and a contract from.
Good lesson.
Yep, it was my song Crossing the Line on the bridge. I would always, it was part of my act, and I could see in their eyes, okay, don't put a middle finger up to these people. Secondly was when I jumped off stage and there was a beautiful woman sitting on the couch in front of me, and I basically lap danced her in front of a guy next to her, and he turned beet red, grabbed her hand, and ran out of the room and did one of these cuts across the neck moves. And I just saw John Reese in the corner of the room with his hand on his face, and it turned out that was the fiance of one of the record company presidents, so we went home without a deal. But we
no sense of humor, these people.
I swear,
none.
And it's good music. It's I challenge anyone to listen to Railer and tell me that those aren't radio pop ready to go songs.
Yeah.
And then after jumping forward several years, my wife had bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And we went on this big journey chasing this vision quest she needed to go on in the summer of 2014. And when that all fell apart, I flew back she wanted to go to California because she felt that the universe was telling her we needed to school our child on a beach in Baja. Yeah, that's a deep look. That's actually a quick glance into bipolar disorder.
Yeah, wow.
Your brain kind of takes you on these manic things, and then you switch to depression, and the cycle is a real crazy train, and you could fill an entire podcast with crazy bipolar stories.
Totally.
Well, then we flew back, and Railer won Best Band in Portland for a second time. So I know we don't suck.
Right.
But I was down on 6th Street and grabbed a guitar from a guy. Actually paid him $20 and said, "Can I play an original?" He was like, "Sure."
That's the most money he'd make.
Right, and I just wanted to play a song, and afterwards, a bunch of people clapping at the bar, and afterwards I get a beer, and this woman comes up to me, and she's like, "Hi." I'm like, "Hello." She was like, "Wow, you really should take singing lessons, and I don't think you should ever pick up that instrument again. You suck."
Wow.
And I was like, "Cool.
Ouch.
All right. Welcome to Austin."
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, "What?" She's like, "I'm from Chicago." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm from Portland, and my band won Best Band of Portland twice, even though that's subjective. Of course,
Right.
we're not famous. But I will say my original drummer, when they told us we didn't get the record deal, they said, it's because your drummer sucks." Well, my drummer from that band is now the drummer in a little band called Portugal the Man.
Right.
They were just on Fallon and Kimmel.
Right.
So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
Welcome
you're
to
getting
Austin.
you're getting my my tail all bushy on you get me on my music, and but I will rise again with Railer. We're going to rebuild here in Austin.
So do you have intentions, or do the members have intentions of migrating here as well?
No.
So you're just going to start a fresh
Starting
project.
fresh. Yeah. So if anybody plays bass, synth, guitar, or drums, hit me up.
Yeah, nice. What's your website?
For the band,
Yeah.
Just find us on Facebook. Just look up Railer Music.
Railer Music.
Yeah.
I thought you had, did you have your own website?
Yeah, we're on Sonic Bids and Bandcamp and Reverb Nation.
And all that kind of stuff.
You split your soul into 12 sites these days.
Totally.
We had the actual Railer website, but didn't pay attention and lost the .com, and I have other crap I'm doing.
Yeah, you got plenty. You got plenty on your plate for sure. So talk about, we've got a little bit of time left, but it's a pretty serious issue, but I want to talk about the bipolar, and part of the reason that you ended up moving here was to get the support of your family. You're a single parent, you've got a daughter, and you shared with me that your wife had committed suicide due to the bipolar disorder.
Correct.
So, it sounds like how did you know that, getting into the relationship? Like, how did this kind of unfold over time? And
so in a real fast manner, I believe, this is my belief, the bipolar disorder is both a genetic disease and it's nature versus nurture, or it's nature and nurture. My wife grew up dirt poor. From her father is a heroin addict, her mother worked at a strip club and had a variety of boyfriends. She ended up doing drugs early. When I met her, she had cleaned up. She was a bartender, and she got the Dean's Award from the toughest nursing school in America.
Wow.
So she was no dummy.
right.
She was a 4.0 student, and like I said, when you graduate magna cum laude, you're smart.
You're probably
She was an amazing person. I miss her dearly. But a year after our daughter was born, her bipolar disorder really manifested. Her mother committed suicide. It sent Michelle on a down the tailspin from there. And shortly before Michelle's mother had killed herself, my guitarist and one of my best friends, Danger Dave, also killed himself. So I've had suicide hit after suicide hit. My brother, my other brother from another mother, my mother-in-law, my wife. I'm tired of losing people.
Yeah.
Tired of losing people.
I bet.
And so the bipolar disorder in and of itself, that's why I'm an advocate for getting our opioid addiction problem in America under control. We got into a car accident. Michelle had surgery after surgery on her neck. She was prescribed oxycodone, Oxycontin, gabapentin, Flexerol, everything under the sun that they could try to get rid of pain in a pill form. You get addicted. Admittedly, I got addicted because trying to deal with it all, I started using her medication.
Right.
That was years ago. I went to a counselor, got that out, and but my experience, I've been through enough, I think, where I can at least empathize with a lot of people for their situations and what they've been through.
Yeah.
I'm no angel, but I've been through the ringer for sure, and can at least say, No, I understand, man.
Feel your pain.
Feel your pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to run towards the light as much as possible, because I do have a 7-year-old who is looking to me, and I am an influence now, and I have to make the proper decisions.
Yeah.
I have to help people and planet and myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that's why I very much appreciate you having me here. You're the first person to that really, I don't know anyone in Austin yet.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you'll get there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new people moving in, so you're in good company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful town. I love being here. A lot hotter, the hot Portland.
Yeah. The unusually hot Portland.
Which is funny, because when I landed here, all the rain started, and
Right.
then Portland,
And Portland
had all
was
massive fires and heat.
107 or something ridiculous up there.
Polar inversion.
Yeah. So you're here now. You're feeling good about it. Your daughter's in good company with family and
The best company she can be in.
Yeah.
Stable, and going to a wonderful elementary school.
Beautiful.
She's a little artist herself.
Nice.
We do a web show. She's recording music.
Yeah. So at the party, he shows me the video that him and his daughter made, and the production value is ridiculous on this thing. You can't believe it. You got to tell people what the name of the video is,
Look
or how to
up
find it.
the Mishmash show, Charlotte Ainsley White Eye Patch. You can't go wrong. Google will bring it right up.
Yeah.
It's a little 15-minute mini movie. We go into battle we go into space and battle this space pirate who
It's great.
makes her spell the word correctly, or he'll
Right.
blast our ship.
Right.
So it's educational and
It's like
entertaining.
a spelling bee with an annihilation as the consequences for failure. It's brilliant. Yeah, look it up for sure. Well, sorry. Randall.
cut that.
Yeah, I'll cut that.
Right.
Randall, thanks for coming. Randall White. Tell me, give the listeners the websites for the other projects that you're working on.
NatureCommode.com
Yep.
and VentureVR.biz.
Great. And then the music
And
site.
Railer. We're
just
on
look,
Spotify.
Look up Railer. You'll find that easy
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
And then, yeah, man, we'll have you on again when we have some more time, and maybe it's a little cooler in the space.
I can't wait to come play here.
Yeah, man, we'll have you here. Yeah, when probably November would be a good time, because it'll
Perfect.
be a little chill.
I might actually have a band by then.
And you might have your shit together.
Rock and
Me
roll.
too.
Thank you for having me, John.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, I hope you got something useful out of that conversation. Randall's got a lot of interesting projects going on, and he'd be a good guy to keep your eye on if you're interested in any of those things. If you like the music that opened this podcast and the music that's currently playing, it's from an artist called Silent Partner. The second song you heard on this podcast is a song of mine called Lust and Pride. You can check out more of my music at shamanjohnmusic.com. That's SHAMANJON music.com. And if you'd like to learn more about our guests, you can go to thewisdomdistillery.net, and you can find links and other information about our guests. Thanks again for listening and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast on iTunes, please do so. And if you have any feedback or a positive review you'd like to leave, that would be fantastic as well. Take time and enjoy the things that mean most in your life today, the people that you love, the places that you love. Be good to yourself, and we'll see you next time.